Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Lalita Vishakha Devi ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Samavit Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhaischa kripa sindhaveva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Okay, so we are today 18th chapter again. Text 22. Before we begin, I assume that everyone's read Bhagavad Gita. Everyone is read. Who hasn't? Who hasn't read Bhagavad Gita? Everyone is read? Yeah? Okay. Huh? At least once. Yeah, that's good. Even if once is good. At least we kind of... Anyway, so today's text 22. I'll recite the verse, then you can repeat after me. Yattu Krishna-vad ekasmin karya saktam hetukam atatvartha vad alpam cha. Sorry, I'll repeat that. Atatva artham vad alpam cha tat tamasam udahatam yattu Krishna vad ekasmin karya saktam hetukam atatvartha vad alpam cha tat tamasam udaharatam yattu Krishna vad ekasmin karya saktam hetukam atatvartha vad alpam cha tat tamasam udaharatam yattu Krishna vad ekasmin karyam sakta hetukam atatvartha vad alpam cha tatatamasam udharatam yattu Krishna vad ekasmin karyam sakta hetukam atatvartha vad alpam cha tatatamasam udaharatam yattu Krishna vad ekasmin karya saktam hetukam atatvartha vad alpam cha tam tamasam udaharatam. Anyone else? Okay. So word to word. Yat, that which. Tu, but. Krishnavat, as all in all. Ekasmin, in one. Karya, work. Saktam, attached. Hetukam, without cause. Atattva arthavat, without knowledge of reality. Alpam, very meager. Cha, and. Tat, that. Tamasam, in the mode of darkness. Udaharatam, is said to be. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: and that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Please repeat after me. And that knowledge by which one is attached to the one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Purport: the knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities of scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of the scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as a product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by the dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is a product of the mode of passion. And knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So we can all together recite the Mangalacharan now. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Paricharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashachat Deshatarane He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. The translation again. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all without knowledge of the truth and which is very meager is said to be the mode of darkness. So, as I said just 2 or 3 classes before, those who were here, this 18th chapter is the summary of the whole of the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada in the text 1 of the 18th chapter states that the Bhagavad Gita is actually finished in 17 chapters. So then the question comes, what is the need of speaking the 18th chapter? Right? What is the need? Why is Lord Krishna? Because we see in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna summarizing the topics he actually informed before to all of us through the medium of Sri Arjuna. And Bhagavad Gita, as we all know, has 5 main topics. Right? 5 main topics. Actually, there are many more. There are many topics discussed in Bhagavad Gita. There are 5 main ones. Anyone know which ones they are? One by one? Okay, one by one. Ishvara. Anyone else? Jiva. Number 2, Jiva. 3.
Prakriti.
No, one by one. Anyone else? That is there, but that's a categories. That is a topic also, but main topic in this line is Jiva, Prakriti. What else did he say? Ishvara. 3. 4th one is Karma. 5th one is Kal, time. These are the 5 main topics. Prabhupada says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he expands that. He says there's 10 major topics in Bhagavad Gita. But what you said, Mataji, is yes, Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 main subjects. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga comes in the middle, Karma Yoga at the beginning, and Jnana Yoga at the end. But But besides the karma, gyan, and bhakti yoga, there are other yogas, like Ashtang yoga is also mentioned. And within karma yoga, this Sakam karma yoga is mentioned, Nishkam karma yoga is mentioned. And even before karma yoga, there is the karma kand aspect is mentioned as well. And Lord Krishna also mentions atheism, no God, in the second chapter. So these topics have been discussed. The question comes, why Lord Krishna is speaking? Because it's already in one sense given the summary of the whole topics in second chapter. Before the main contents of Gita begins, Lord Krishna has already given the second chapter. Sometimes, when you see papers or theses written, big reports written, you have an introduction, you have executive summary, you have the main content, then you summary and conclusion. These are some aspects, or not all, some aspects of writing a report. So similarly, if you look at Bhagavad Gita from a different angle, you have introduction, chapter 1. Then you have the executive summary, chapter 2, because it's summarizing the whole of the Bhagavad Gita. And then from chapter 3 to chapter 17, the main contents of the Bhagavad Gita. And then 18th chapter, in the beginning, actually majority of 18th chapter is summarizing, again at the end of the big thesis, big report. And then at the end, 1866 is conclusion. So if you look at that, how scientific papers are written, big reports are written, Krishna has already done that 5,000 years ago. And what we do today is just recent. So Bhagavad Gita, one can get inspiration to do everything. All the topics in the universe are covered in this 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, from report writing to the management, how to manage, how to control the mind, what is different types of yoga, etc., etc., etc. Anything one can think of, one will find in the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is the essence of all the Vedic literatures. Sarva Upanishada Gava, Dogdha Gopala Nandana. At the end of the introduction, Srila Prabhupada quotes 7 verses of Gita Mahatmya. There are 3 Gita Mahatmyas, and this is one of them. Some say it's by Adi Shankaracharya, some say it's by Srila Vyasadeva, I'm not sure. So this Gita Mahatmya talks about that. But coming back to the point, why repeat? So in this chapter 18, as we mentioned last time, the first 12 verses of chapter 18 summarizing Karma Yoga, and then 13th to 19 is summarizing Jnana Yoga, and now text 20 to text 40, Lord Krishna is summarizing 3 modes of material nature. 3 modes of material nature were discussed in great detail in chapter 14 and 17, divisions of faith. Chapter 14, when Lord Krishna talked about 3 modes of material nature. In chapter 17, he talked about charity, he talked about austerity, renunciation, different food, many topics which come under the 3 modes of material nature. And now some of the topics not covered in the 17th chapter, divisions of faith, Lord Krishna describes here from text 23rd onwards. He will discuss action, he will discuss all in 3 different modes: determination, action, knowledge. And this text 22, text 20, 21 and 22, Lord Krishna is summarizing chapter 13 and 14 and 17. So just let's look at that. What is knowledge in the mode of goodness, as Lord Krishna summarizes in text 20? That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. So that knowledge, here Lord Krishna is talking about the super soul present, the same super soul present in all different types of bodies. And one who knows that, that is in the mode of goodness. In the mode of passion knowledge, that knowledge by which one sees that in every different body, there's a different type of living entity. You should understand to be in the mode of passion. That means the Noah understands that there's no two souls, there's no super soul. The body is the soul. When the body dies, the soul, the Chaitanya, the consciousness is also finished. So that's mode of passion. And here ignorance, we'll discuss that in a minute, but the question comes, why summarize? Because we see in Bhagavad Gita, Lord, out of 700 verses, actually there is Bhagavad Gita also, which has 745 verses. I don't know if you heard of that. So 700 verses, 574 Lord Krishna speaks. 84 Lord Sri Arjuna speaks. 41 you have Sanjaya speak. And they are one and only the first one, Dhritarashtra speaks. So Lord Krishna is speaking 574 verses to Arjuna, and up to now, Lord Krishna hasn't really heard Arjuna speak. Whether he's accepted what Krishna is speaking or not. Arjuna is asking questions. Right from second chapter he's asking questions. But he's not saying, I agree with you, I accept. He's asking questions and questions and questions to get more clarification. So when Lord Krishna comes, he finishes the 17th chapter, he says, I've spoken everything. Arjuna is still not sure. He's still still in doubt. So then he starts speaking the 18th chapter. He started summarizing everything. So, but then, even after speaking the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, which is 1865 and 1866, Sri Arjuna is still quiet. He's still quiet. Before speaking 1865, yes, that's right. Before speaking 1865, Arjuna was in two minds. All this the acharyas explain. What is going on? What we read is the content, but the intent. What is happening in the mind of Lord Krishna? What is happening in the mind of Dhritarashtra? What is happening in the mind of Sanjaya? And how Lord Krishna is not just answering what the questions Sri Arjuna asks, but also knowing what is in Arjuna's mind, he is speaking. And similarly, Sanjaya, who is relating the whole of Bhagavad Gita with the mercy of his guru, Srila Vyasadeva, he could understand the minds of all the warriors on the battlefield. And Sanjay could relay to Dhritarashtra exactly what was happening, what was spoken and what was unspoken. So the unspoken aspect, the intent, the acharyas also explain. So they explain, Arjuna is quiet. Many times he's keeping quiet. Krishna has spoken, he's quiet. Krishna has spoken the conclusion. Arjuna is quiet. And then in text 72, Lord Krishna actually asks him. He says, O son of Partha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? So after speaking everything, he had instead of the disciple Arjuna saying, yes, I've understood, he had to be asked by Krishna. Because Arjuna, you have to understand, is in such a dilemma. And what is the dilemma in front of him? The dilemma was there's opposition his friends, his uncles, his guru, his grandfather, his cousin brothers, all his relatives were in the opposite side. And what were they planning to do? They were planning to kill him, have a war. And Pandavas, they had a plan to kill Kauravas. So Arjun, he gave 5 reasons not to fight. 4 at the end of chapter 1 and the last one at the beginning of chapter 2. He doesn't want to fight. Instead, he wants to leave the battlefield, leave his Kshatriya dharma and go and beg, become a beggar or a sannyasi. So here's the dilemma, and Krishna speaks, and especially when Krishna takes Arjun in front, takes the chariot. We read this in chapter 2. We see that when Sri Arjuna asks Krishna to take the chariot in middle of the 2 armies, because Arjun wants to see who's there. Lord Krishna has read Arjun's mind. So where does it take him? Right in front of right in front of Dronacharya and Bhishmadev, who he is most attached to. And he becomes even more in a dilemmic situation. He doesn't want to fight. He is just ripe to hear the transcendental knowledge. And Lord Krishna speaks all these verses at the end after speaking. Although Krishna was ready to, Prabhupada says, Krishna was ready to speak the whole Bhagavad Gita again. If Arjun said, I don't understand. You see? But he's quiet. Then Lord Krishna had to ask himself, have you understood what I said to you? Are you with me? Kind of thing. So then Arjun replies in 73, Nashta moho smritir labdha tot prasadan maya achyut statosmin sandhya. You asked a question the other day, how to be free from doubts. We have just read the Bhagavad Gita, how Arjun surrendered and what Arjun asked, inquiries, and what was the result of that? Karishye vachanam tav. Arjun said, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt. And I am prepared to act according to instructions. But that is way ahead, 50 verses ahead. We are in text 22. We're talking about knowledge. Knowledge in 3 modes, like anything else in this world. Yes. So the question was, Krishna had to, why did Krishna speak the 18th chapter? Because Arjun, after hearing, he did not respond. So Krishna spoke, so to make him understand, to remind him, that's what I've discussed. Have you understood? Yes. That's why Krishna was expecting this earlier. We find in the many chapters previously, Lord Krishna brings immediately a few verses, like 3:30, 4:16, something like that. So pure devotion, pure bhakti, Lord Krishna speaks. He brings Arjun from this level to that level immediately, but Arjun is not ready to hear that. So Krishna goes back, and then he starts gradually enlightens him. So anyway, that's the secret of Bhagavad Gita, as our acharyas have explained. 3 knowledge in 3 modes. Here, the purport. Here, and Prabhupada also says, and Prabhupada elaborates the text. Prabhupada said the knowledge of common man is always in the mode of darkness, because every living entity is in the conditional life born into the mode of ignorance. Kalo Shudra Sambhava. We may have heard of this shloka, that everyone in the age of Kali is born a Shudra. Shudra means, anyway, we won't go into the Varanashram. And then there's another shloka from Skanda Purana, Prabhupada also quotes that. Janmana Jayate Shudra. Everyone from birth is a Shudra. Then what happens? Samskrad bhavet dvija. By following the sanskaras, the 16 purificatory processes, or by taking up bhakti, which is a healing and self-purifying process, one comes up to a dvija or a twice born. And then you have Ved Pathat Bhavet Vipra. By studying the Vedas or the scriptures, one becomes a Vipra. Vipra there's a difference between Vipra and a Brahmin. And then who's a Brahmin? Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. So those who know Brahman means Supreme Lord, and they are Brahmins. So everyone is born a Shudra, but through these samskaras, purificatory processes, through the process of devotional service, one raises oneself up to the point of mode of goodness, and then goes beyond the mode of goodness. Sattva gun.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I have, of course, heard this many times that we are all born out of ignorance, but I can only say from my family thing is my parents were very spiritual, and we have 6 siblings. So, is it still out of mode of ignorance, because out of the 6 of us, few of us got into the spiritual journey, but the rest didn't. So obviously there is some influence. Are we those who are on the spiritual path? Are they still considered mode of ignorance? I feel concerned saying that to myself also.
See, what is mode of ignorance? We have to understand what is mode of ignorance. In the 14th chapter, if we quickly, in very detailed, Lord Krishna explains, but what is mode of good? First, goodness. Goodness in 14th chapter, text 9, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance covers one's knowledge and binds one to madness. And then mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is delusion for all embodied living entities. The results in this mode are madness, indolence, sleep, which binds a conditioned soul. So these are the, in nutshell, what mode of good ignorance does. And what does mode of passion do? Mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive activities or actions. And mode of goodness, text 6, is illuminating, is free from all sinful reactions. Those situated in this mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. So at a glance, you can understand where people are at, or where our self is at. Am I conditioned by happiness and knowledge? Whether my sinful reactions, am I free from my sinful reactions? Am I illuminated through knowledge? Am I illuminated through sense of contentment, peaceful happiness? That's mode of goodness in general. And then mode of, again, just to repeat, mode of passion. Unlimited desires and belongings. We have so many desires. I want to do this, I want to do this, oh, this is missing, I wish I could do that. I may get envious of other person's possessions because I want that desires. That's mode of passion. Simply. And mode of ignorance, is to repeat, is madness and indolence, laziness, and sleep. So that's mode of ignorance. So you can judge for yourself which mode we are in currently, but how to get above that? That's very simple. In text 26 of the same chapter, Lord Krishna, Sa gunan sammitetan brahma bhoyaya kalpate. How? Mam cha yovbhacharin bhakti yogena sevate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of material nature. So engaging in devotional service or taking up the path of bhakti immediately takes one above these modes. Not that one is not affected, but one comes above that and trying to rise above the mode. So that's a simple process. One can work individually without taking up the mode, process of bhakti, because one can be mode of goodness if you're a jnana yogi or a karma yogi or a ashtanga yogi, but they have to do separate endeavors. But if one takes up the process of bhakti yoga, then you don't have to endeavor separately. Just practicing devotional service, everything is set, everything isn't taken care of. Yeah, so you to answer your question, yes, we may be spiritual, but we may not be in the path of bhakti. You understand? Like one can be karma yogi, a jnana yogi, an ashtanga yogi, not necessarily bhakti yogi. And that's what this purport, I will explain that anyway, that's what purport is all about as well. Is that answers?
Yeah, but I think, I know many people, and I know my parents too. I mean, of course, that even though the parents can be bhakti yoga, and they have multiple kids, and all those kids, I think, have their own karma, and they will be in different categories of goodness, passion.
Correct.
It's not necessary that all the kids of bhakti yoga parents will be in the mode of goodness.
Actually, those who are practicing bhakti yoga, they don't want to be in mode of goodness. Because even mode of goodness...
They want to serve Krishna.
No. Yes, but they want to serve Krishna in sattva rajagun. Sorry, sattva mode of goodness. So mode of goodness is also, but one has to reach the mode of goodness. Then we have to go beyond the mode of goodness, what is known as Vishuddha mode of goodness. So in that mode, then one can serve Krishna properly. But below that, before that, even one's devotional service is affected by three modes: mode of passion, mode of goodness, mode of ignorance. The path of bhakti is also affected by this. So the idea is to come to pure devotional service, where one is not affected by these three modes. Yeah, it's not that, yes, there is a difference between what is known as Mishra Bhakti or mixed Bhakti and a pure Bhakti or a pure devotional service. Even though we may be practicing, we all may be in the path of Bhakti Yoga, but we may be in different modes. That is a fact. But the idea is to transcend these modes. And that can only happen very easily. Not only, the best way to happen is continue in the path of devotional service, because that is a self-purifying process, and eventually one will transcend the three modes of material nature. As text 26 of chapter 14 Lord Krishna says, one can easily transcend these modes by practicing devotional service. So coming back to this verse, knowledge in the mode of ignorance, actually, as I mentioned before, there are two types of knowledges: Vidya and Avidya. Ishopanishad talks about that, mantra 11. Vidyam cha, Vidya and Avidya, and it talks about having a balance between the two. To progress, you need to be, but where does Avidya leads? The Upanishad itself says, is Avidyaya mritam tritva. Avidya leads to fall down, or towards death, or towards ignorance. Whereas Vidya amritam ashnate. Vidya leads towards immortality. So that's why in the Vedas it says, Tasmama Jyotir Gamaya, lead me from darkness to light. So this, although both exist, darkness and light, ignorance and goodness exist, but most people, as Prabhupada points out in this world, they are in the mode of ignorance. Because we were all mode of ignorance in the age of Kali, but we purified ourselves through either purificatory processes known as sanskaras or taking up the devotional service. But most people in this world, as Prabhupada says, they do not take up the sanskaras or devotional service, and they remain in the mode of ignorance. We see that. How many people in this world actually take up or are taking up devotional service, bhakti yoga? Very few. Even within the context of India, 1.6 or 1.4 or 5 billion people, at least 80% are Hindus, followers of Sanatana Dharma. How many of those actually take up devotional service, Artha Bhakti? Minute fraction, very few. That's why in the 7th chapter, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kashit Yatati Siddhaye, Lord Krishna says, not everyone comes to this path. So it's very rare to come and tread and walk the path of devotional service. Very rare. But because unless we reach Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmade Navratam, unless we reach the pure devotional service level, we will also, while walking the path of devotional service, we will also experience in ourselves mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And 14th chapter Krishna says these are competing with each other. Mode of ignorance competes with passion and goodness, goodness competes with passion and ignorance, passion competes with ignorance and goodness. So that happens to all of us as well, even though we may be part of devotional service. Unless we reach higher level, then it doesn't affect us. At least we know. How do we know? And how does this knowledge help us? That we become cautious, we become aware, we should be introspective what we do, and trying to act. If I see myself acting in mode of ignorance, and quickly I try to come out of it. I know mode of ignorance is not good. Similarly, if I see myself in mode of passion, I quickly try to come out of it. Because I have the knowledge through Bhagavad Gita, through Srila Prabhupada. And if I know I'm acting mode of goodness, I need to be very careful that I may not become very attached to my happiness. I may not become proud that I am in mode of goodness. So this is where I need to practice humility. So these things, most people don't know these goodness, passion, ignorance. You see, they don't know. And that's why Prabhupada says one who does not develop knowledge through the authorities and scriptures, that's where we get this knowledge from. The scriptures, authorities, the parampara system, our gurus, who's giving us this knowledge. And that's why we have to transform the knowledge into realized knowledge, Gyan into Vigyan. That comes with experience, that comes with practicing sadhana bhakti, that comes with time, that comes with sincerity, that comes with asking for help, for prayer from the Lord. And this type of knowledge, simple, is actually limited to the body. Mode of ignorance knowledge is limited to the body. In 1968, Prabhupada gave a lecture. It was mentioned this morning's Bhagavatam class also. In 1968, Prabhupada went to MIT, Massachusetts IT, Information Technology, right? MIT. World's premier institute, one of the world's best universities. And Prabhupada gave a lecture. He gave a lecture on as wonderful as always. And then he made a comment. I think he asked a question or he made a comment. He said, you have so many departments in this university. You have different topics, computer, IT, all that stuff, all the different modern education topics. And then Prabhupada said, where is the department which teaches you the knowledge of the soul? There isn't. There wasn't. There isn't yet. And even now we see how many colleges, schools, universities in the world there are. literally tens and tens of thousands. And how many of them actually teach the knowledge about the soul, the difference between the body and the soul? How many do that? Hardly. Only some private institutes, private schools which combine religious education. Huh? Like Gurukula. That's why Prabhupada wanted to establish Gurukulas. And what is the knowledge? The knowledge in these, we all been to schools and colleges in the modern education system. We all know what it teaches. It teaches one to be successful in material world. To become successful, you got to earn as higher as possible, as much as possible, build up your career, be successful, enjoy, drink and marry, enjoy and earn as much as possible. That is successful life. That's what it teaches. It's all material. Does it ever tell you, hold on, think what you're doing, you know who you really are? No, it doesn't talk about God, it doesn't talk about one's real identity, it doesn't talk about goal of life. It doesn't talk about that. And that's why we see, and what is, okay, if I summarize the modern education, Prabhupada also summarized modern educations to some very realistic wordings. Some people find it offensive. I won't repeat, but he was absolutely spot on. Have you heard of the YOLO effect? Anyone heard of the YOLO effect? YOLO. You only live once. YOLO, you only live once. That's what modern education, that's what the students, teenagers, people in general, they're taught. I only live once, so I will enjoy. I don't believe in the future life. Prabhupada says the modern civilization is based on many mistakes. And one of the mistakes is it does not believe in afterlife. So because I only live once, this is it. After I die, everything is finished. That's what YOLO effect means. So therefore, I will do everything to enjoy. I will beg, borrow and steal. I will cheat people. In my career, I will put people down. I will climb on their shoulders. I will play politics. I will even, get rid of them out of my way. If they come in my way, I will get rid of them. Because I only live once. I want to enjoy. And then there's FOMO also. There's many acronyms. FOMO, fear of missing out. FOMO, fear of missing out. Because I only live once, I don't want to miss out in this world. I don't want to miss out on enjoyment. I want to have 10 girlfriends, 20 girlfriends. I want to travel the world. I want to have a bucket list. I want to travel here, I want to travel there. You see? Before I die, I want to see these 100 movies. Sometimes you see 100 movies to see before you die. Or these places to see before you die. That's what they advertise.
Yet they never enjoy it.
That knowledge is this type of knowledge. Ignorance related to the body. You see? Where is the university colleges which is teaching you something else? They're not. We are so lucky. Even in the context of spiritualism, in all the religions, whether in India or other religious systems in the world, where is the lesson, first lesson, which Srila Prabhupada always repeated, which Lord Krishna begins his teachings in Bhagavad Gita? You're not the body. Who teaches that? No one teaches it. Even though they're so great orators and so-called great religionists, so saints and sages, but they don't teach the basics. And Prabhupada starts with the basics. He always touches the basics. At the same time, he touches the topmost knowledge at the same time. So, Vidya and Avidya. Prabhupada gives an example as Ishopanishad talks about having a balance in life. He talks about train which runs on two tracks. He uses the example of two tracks means Guru and Krishna, and they train to oneself. So there has to be balance, not balance, there has to be link between Guru and Krishna to progress steadily. But if I slightly use that example in a different context, same example, same analogy, that we, just like a train runs on two tracks, similarly the living entities in this world also need to run on two tracks. One is Vidya and another one is Avidya. Material knowledge and spiritual knowledge. What is happening in this world? Everyone is trying to run on one track, which is material knowledge. And that's mode of ignorance. That's why Janmana Jayate Shudra. That's why. And Prabhupada says that. So the idea is to have balance between the two knowledges, as the Ishopanishad explains. And then once we reach a balance, when we progress, then we only need one track, which is the spiritual track. Later on. But that's later on. So, for him, God is money. And knowledge means satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of ordinary animals. Animals eating, sleeping, mating and defending. That's what most people do in this world. If you analyze, before we came to Krishna consciousness, we were doing the similar thing. Even though it could be in spiritual context. But ultimately, it's a similar thing we're doing. We do not have the knowledge. So, mode of ignorance. In other words, so that's what the material knowledge is all about. That's what is related with the body and is related to how to enjoy and how to earn more money. At the end of the day, modern education system teaches you how to earn the most money. Simple. And if you have money, you have control, then you can enjoy. That's what modern education system is telling you. The whole machinery is geared around this. Careers, changing career, education, you're drummed into at school, you got to be successful, you got to earn money, you got to get this job, you must do this education, you must qualify. I mean, one has to encourage for qualification, no doubt, but what is the aim of that education? So, avidya mrityum tritva. So this avidya leads not to amritam or immortality, but leads to mortality. And who follows this? In the 16th chapter, we don't have time to go through it. 16th chapter, Lord Krishna talks about the demoniac and divine natures. Those who have demoniac natures, they follow this avidya. And then in the 7th chapter, text 15 also, Lord Krishna talks about Maya Pritta Jnana, Asrim Bhavim Ashrita, Naradhama, 4 types of people who don't surrender to him. And then 16th chapter, text 15, the famous ones, the famous verse. It just talks about Ishwaroham Aham Bhogi, the very famous one. Siddhoham Balvan Sukhi. One thinks that I am the enjoyer, I am the perfect, powerful, and I'm happy. I am the richest man. I am surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I give some charity. Thus I will rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. That's a summary. There's so many other aspects of the person ignorance. There's a few points I wanted to make, but we don't have time. It's 7 o'clock. So other other angle of this ignorance could be, this is that when one comes to Krishna consciousness, then one ends up leaving the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and shelter of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, because that individual who's leaving thinks he has a better knowledge. He has a better knowledge. They think Prabhupada did not give enough. His knowledge is not sufficient. And so that can also come into the category. There's a saying in English, so near yet so far. That applies to those individuals. And why is it important to have knowledge, right knowledge? Chanakya Pandit and other places in the scriptures mentions very clearly. Chanakya Pandit says, Avidyam jivanam shunyam. Without knowledge, right knowledge, one's life is useless or empty. Then he says, Vidyam sarvasya bhushanam. The ornament of everything is knowledge, the right knowledge. And what is knowledge supposed to do? Vidya dadati vinayam. Knowledge is supposed to make you humble and meek. Not vidya dadati ahankaram, vidya dadati abhimanam. So knowledge, knowing knowledge is one thing, applying the knowledge is something else. So that is the two different things. Theory has to become practice. Unless that practice is there, our theory will be there, but at the same time we may not understand. We may interpret it falsely. So therefore, this theory the knowledge has to come through a parampara system, through the scriptures that Prabhupada points out, through the scriptures as well as the Guru Parampara system. So if knowledge, evam parampara praptam imam rajarashya vidhu, chapter 4, 1 and 2, Krishna says how the knowledge is received. So right knowledge we have to aim for. Even in the, just repeat and final word, even in the right knowledge, there are categories. One has to be, the nuances, as they say. One has to be careful. One doesn't get misled very easily. That's why Shraddhavan Labhate Jnanam, chapter 4. One must have Shraddha, I mentioned this last time. And that Shraddha slowly needs to turn through our sadhana bhakti, anartha nivrati, and in bhajana kriya, has to turn into nishtha. So when the turns to nishtha, the knowledge becomes solid. One is not distracted. One is not put off the path of one has taken up. There are a few more points, but I think I'll stop here. It's past 7 o'clock. If there's any comments, questions we can have. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for this question about devotional service in 3 modes. You mentioned that we can raise from Kamaguna and passion to Sattva-guna mode of like devotional service only through practice, because it's self-purifying process. Is that the only way, or we can do something more?
Well, we are sadhakas. Sadhaka means we are practicing sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti means we have to follow rules and regulations. So through this process, this process will purify us, make us disciplined, instill in us knowledge, and our faith will grow. So then slowly, we will reach our goal. The other way is spontaneous ragatmika bhakti, which we are not qualified to do for most of us right now, for most of you maybe later. That is spontaneous devotional service, which the gopis and the great devotees have. And the third aspect is kripa siddha. Actually, even though one may be performing sadhana very diligently, very carefully, strictly, one may sometimes, not always, sometimes may not achieve the goal. Therefore, as I said, the 3 types of bhaktas, sadhan siddhas, nitya siddhas, and kripa siddhas. Kripa siddhas, while performing devotional service, they depend on the mercy of the Lord. Mercy of the Lord and the great devotees, like Prabhupada. So that's another way of helping us. That we should understand we are very limited. We're trying to know the unlimited. And so therefore we need help. We need mercy. We need assistance. That's why our association is important. Our Guru Parampara, mercy through the Parampara, mercy through our Guru, and Srila Prabhupada is important. So that way it also elevates us. So that is, but we must follow strictly our sadhana bhakti. Okay?
And one more question.
Yes.
On the end, you mentioned that knowledge is supposed to make us humble, and one more thing. What was the second thing?
Vidya dadati vinayam, humble and meek. Then from, there's a whole verse actually, there's a whole chronology. Vidya dadati vinayam, vinayam dadati something, 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 but it all starts with knowledge. Yeah, humble. Vinayam means meek and humble, humility. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaved Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.